This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 407, recorded on June 20th, 2019. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy.TV studios here in a stormy, it might get always, College World Series just seems to attract the storms, right?
It's a guarantee.
Count on it.
It's a guarantee. We had 2 good days on opening day, and then the rest of this week has just been rainy. We even had it where it pushed. We had to have like 4 games in one day here, I think, or 3 or 4, because of the rain delayed everything the day before. It's been, not the best weather for College World Series.
Yeah, you kind of got to wonder, we've had the College World Series here in Omaha since the 50s. So 70 years we've had them here. And I think the last time we locked in a 20-year deal with the NCAA. And you'd have to think after a while, every year there's rain delays and it screws things up and it messes up the ESPN schedule. You'd think somebody'd go, man, San Diego would be pretty nice.
I was just going to say San Diego. They should move this to where it's not going to be an issue.
And if I was San Diego, I think I would, I'd put some serious money into the NCAA coffers to get this thing. It isn't the biggest thing in the world. I mean, it's not like March Madness. It's not like the national championship for football here in the U.S. It's just the baseball College World Series. And it's been here 70 years. Omaha supports it really, really well, but it just rains. And then it's super hot for the championship game. It seems like always. Yep. And then that is really the mark of the worst weather we have for the rest of the year. So first part of July, through 1st of September, it's awful. Like, you just don't go outside. And I don't know. Like, they keep coming back. Of course, we keep coming back too. 407 times. We'll post the show with the world-class show notes at theaverageguy.tv. Don't forget, you can also join us live on our mobile app. Thank our Patreon subscribers for that. I got a little update on Patreon here in a few minutes, but homegadgetgeeks.com get you the app. Best way to listen on the road. You can catch it if you're catching a plane or you're on a plane. You can actually just stream it that way. If you're listening live on a Thursday, a bunch out there in the chat room tonight. We appreciate you guys showing up as well, but you could be doing this on our app, homegadgetgeeks.com. If you haven't joined us in the Discord group, you could do that as well. theaverageguy.tv/Discord will get you in. Lots of great conversations going on there. Mike, the news around Facebook just keeps getting worse. We're going to talk about that a little bit on the crypto side, but tonight, for the first time ever, I was kind of like, I've been hearing guys say this too. Like, I'm done with Facebook. Like, I'm done being there. I don't want to be on it. Many of them, we have a Facebook group here, and many of them have said they didn't want to be on it and wouldn't be on it. And I'm just hearing more and more people kind of feeling that way. Do you get that? Like, it's kind of a stinky harbor.
I've been having that same vibe. I've tried. I'm now in the process of going and finding I didn't have many, but way back in the early days, I had used Facebook to log into certain services. So I'm going to try and find those and switch those over. And then I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking about, for myself, pulling the plug on Facebook.
Yeah. Here's my problem. I use it for work. And I would really, if I had an equivalent, we would be moving. And I kind of put up with it, and but I think I'm going to have to, push a little bit harder to replace it sooner than later. We're in groups, and groups are pretty manageable. If you can stay, like, I stay in the groups. I rarely post anything to my own site page feed. I guess they call it feed anymore. I'm not posting that much on Facebook. We use the Messenger feature exclusively as a family chat. That's kind of where the family chat lives. But just kind of as I hear kind of the stuff that's going on Facebook, again, we're going to talk about that crypto thing from them here later in the show. But I don't know. I'm getting convicted. Just reading tonight an article on The Verge about their Tampa. They have a Arizona and a Tampa contractor who kind of oversees the removal of content on there, and they barely pay these people anything. And we're talking about people who are watching, child porn and murders and hate crime, and they have to watch and remove all this stuff on Facebook. and there's just the working conditions are awful, and many of them are having health and mental health problems. I'm just like, what have we created here? And again, I've been kind of an advocate in some ways over the last couple, kind of 3, 4, 5 years for Facebook. Not pro Facebook, but have been using their services. And I don't know. The switch flipped for me tonight as I was reading that article. I'm like, I think it's time to run. I think it's kind of time to flee and be done with it. But it's so hard because it's work.
It is hard. And it's hard because, a lot of my older family members, that's how they, see pictures of the boys and stuff like that. And I know that Instagram is owned by Facebook. I get that. So I don't know if it's any better, but I just, Instagram for me is so much more useful. The feed is actually people I follow with a few scattered in ads. It's not a bunch of just junk that I haven't followed. Facebook feed is just useless. If you just scroll Facebook, it really is it's kind of useless. Yeah. So I'm in the same boat as you, Jim. I think I'm looking to get out. I just haven't quite pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, I'd love to, and I doubt I could get permission for this. You're not hearing the noise behind me, are you? I got some.
It's hard for me because I hear my air conditioner runs too. So right, background noise I hear outside of these headphones.
Typically, Sarah does not run anything down here. She's doing it tonight. She's on the road tomorrow, so she's doing some laundry tonight. I'd love to move to Discord now that we've been in a Discord group, and I can kind of create Discord with channels and a lot of those things. I'm just not sure I could get that kind of a past our enterprise guys. And it does create a new login for people, which has always been why we held up kind of going to a third-party service. We've been kind of developing one on our own to do with our coaches. And I've been kind of waiting for that to come, and that keeps getting delayed, put behind other priorities or in front of other priorities. And I guess if I could change it, I just go to Discord. That's been, I think, a pretty good experience here.
I think it works great too. And I think, there are some other podcasts that I've talked about even where they use a voice channel that's how they record and live stream their podcast. Of course, it's only voice, it's not video, but that's how they do it. And they run everything through their Discord. I think it works really well that way.
Yeah. I'm wondering, we were talking about this too. YouTube has let me know that Hangouts are going away. I've been kind of not believing them. Just to be honest, I don't know why. They've killed everything else that's actually worked from Google, but they have been warning us for about a year that Hangouts on Air would go away. All that functionality has moved to the G Suite. I do need to do some looking because I may be able to keep this in the G Suite. I don't know, Mike. I've got some work to do, but they finally started putting the warnings up, and I just closed it on there. But it did say, hey, later this year, this service is going away. And this service is what we're doing right here. I'm wondering how different the experience would be. I may get to a point where we're out for video for a couple weeks, just as I figure all this out. I'm going to do some work now to figure it out. And I'm not thinking it's imminent, like it's going to be in the next week. So I'm not too worried about it. But what would the listening experience way back in the day when we did Home Service Show? It was only audio. We were on Ustream, but it was only, or one of those services. And it was only audio. Chat room. The guys that are out there right now, Joe and Ryan and Mark, what do you think? If it was just audio for a while and would it change the experience for you? Does it matter if you have video? I don't know. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love to hear how you're currently watching this, how many of you, and where does it matter? I have this video RSS feed that I make. You guys are not watching it live. We could absolutely create this video, not broadcast it. The live would only be audio, and the video would only come out on the RSS feed. Mike, that actually may drive a bunch more video numbers. That might drive that video RSF. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe doesn't. Nobody cares, right? You probably consume 95% of your podcasts audio. Right?
Pretty much 100%. And if I am, for the few that I do maybe watch on YouTube, usually I pop it up, I'm listening, and I throw their window. Sometimes I'll click over and look at them, but most of the time I'm doing other work in the foreground, and they're just kind of in the background. So I don't know if it would be super necessary to have the video. If we were going to record the video anyway and put it out, we'd probably have to use something like OBS anyway, and it would be one click away from just live streaming that out.
Right. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be too different. But yeah, the audio only, I think it works. But yeah, I would like to see from the live viewers and then from the video viewers, if you download our video after the fact, let us know how attached you are to that video, because that does add a complexity. And if we just did live to Spreaker and just put that on the website and just go click, and that's we already do it to Spreaker, so there's your live audio. We wouldn't have to change anything. We would have to figure out how you and I are going to do this on the back end, right? We would probably have to do
Skype would work,
Skype or anything like that.
Yeah, whatever. At that point, I don't care about the video. Couple things coming in from the chat room. Mark says he wouldn't be able to share his barbecue pics that way. That is true. Although, yeah, that is true. And then Ryan says, I only do video when I can live, or if you suggest it like you did last week with the 3D printing. By the way, big thanks to Ron for him coming in and the 3D printing show last week. It was dynamite. So Ron, thanks for the work that you did on that. And so, yeah, oftentimes we show things. It's kind of helpful. That was a helpful show to show, we showed these little coins that Ron made for us. I'll talk about those here in just a second. Twitch, Joe says Twitch, maybe. Yeah, if I'm going to go to Twitch, I'm going to go OBS, because we're going to have to use some software to go to Twitch. If I'm going to use OBS, I'm going to go to YouTube. So, that again, this is not a life or death or ending problem. It's just like, do I want to do all the OBS stuff to make this work and then figure out how we're going to connect on the video? It's one more thing to monitor. I have the hardware to do it. I've got 4 of these 1060 cards that are perfect actually for that application.
Because you run a second machine, right? You have 2 machines in front of you that you could run. Man, with OBS, if you have a second dedicated machine, it would be super easy. Just add them into the Skype call, record the screen. You could get fancy with it and add some banners or whatever if you wanted to, but it would be really simple on a second machine with OBS if you just add them into a Skype call or something like that. It would not be difficult. But it's just one more added thing, right?
Yeah.
And it is more complicated definitely than firing up a Google Hangout and hitting start.
Yeah, no, I thought we'd throw that out there. Talk a little bit about it. Sometimes you guys like the behind the scenes inside baseball stuff. That is coming up, and a decision I'm going to have to make. I don't have to make it now, which is great. I probably have, end of the year most likely is probably when they'll kill it. In some regards, if they said by the end of the year, I say it's weird they didn't give a date. That is kind of weird. Usually they'll be like, hey, by December, whatever, of 2019, whatever. Maybe more is coming. We'll talk about this some more on Ask the Podcast Coach on Saturday, but thought I'd throw it out there. Jim@theaverageguy.tv if you've got a suggestion. Mike, because we had Ron on, he made these coins. And so I talked in the show. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with them. So I looked at our current Patreon subscriber list, and I think I had 9 of you that are $5 or more subscribers. And so I just asked for addresses, and those of you in the US sent them to me, and I mailed them out. So you should be receiving them. If you're a Patreon subscriber today, it's in the mail. Hopefully he'll get there. I tried, so I sent them in these envelopes here, these little padded, they didn't need it to be padded. I think these will be fine in the mail, right? They're pretty.
Yeah, you can put just a regular.
I don't know. Okay. So maybe it was good that it was padded. And then, so I took it into work, and I'm like, what's the cheapest way to send this? And the guy's, well, technically it's parcel. So, or whatever. And it's a little bigger than an envelope. So you need to pay it's going to be like $7. I was like, oh crap, that's not good. He's like, tell you what, he's like, just throw 2 stamps on there and let's see what happens. So $1.10 threw them in the mail. And I'm hoping
I think that'll work.
I think so.
Yeah. I've mailed those out before just as a regular postcard.
Yeah. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you got these coming. Andy, who was a $1 Patreon subscriber, moved his pledge up to $5, and Andy will be sending you one of these as well. And anybody else who supports us at that level and goes up, that I've got enough, at least I think at this point. If not, I'll ask Ron nicely if he'll print some more for us. We'll be sending those out then for new $5 Patreon subscribers. For the new ones, we'll wait for the month to end, and then we will send them out to you as well. So thanks to everybody on Patreon who's done that as well. John Adelaide, I think, and I can never pronounce his last name, but he sent me a nice email this week. He said, "Hey, Jim, miss seeing you every year at the meetup. I do enjoy the show. With one kid just out of college and one headed there this year, I really enjoyed the show with your daughter. Very timely, and even at that age, she sounded like a competent or like a complete pro. Must run in her blood, John. John, thanks for sending that. I continue, Mike, to get feedback on
Have you
Sammy.
been passing that on to Sammy?
I do. Yeah,
Good,
I read it to her.
I hope she knows that she nailed it when she was here.
No, super cool. So thanks for that feedback as well. I always appreciate when you guys send me those. Speaking of feedback, one more little bit. We talked about this last week, but some of you, a couple of you, Joe and Ed, have been kind enough to slip a few cigars our way. Mike, I'll put a picture in the show notes. We took Joe's cigars to Havana, which is our local cigar shop. Mike, our fourth time together, maybe? And is that what we figured out?
Ever, guys, like not like this year, like the fourth time being in person together ever.
Just we got to do that more often.
Yeah.
And so last Friday we met about 3 downtown Havana, and in Joe, we tried a couple cigars. You sent us the Gurkha, I think that's how it's pronounced, Gurkha, Gurkha Cellar Reserve 12 year platinum, and it's a double Robusto, which was super good. Medium to full strength on those. Comes from the Dominican Republic. Really nice cigar. We enjoyed 2 that night. Mike, any comments on the Gurkha?
It was good. I am definitely no expert. That was probably I haven't done a lot of them, but man, that one was smooth. It was easy to enjoy, and it paired well with, I was having I can't remember the name, Jim. It was like St. Bernard's or St. Benedict's beer, which was kind of a darker stout, and went really well together.
Yeah, we enjoyed that. We had 2 that night. Enjoyed that with some beer. So Joe thanks that on. Although not only did Joe send cigars, he's telling me in the chat room that the post office let him know he needed more postage. Is that right? Is he joking with me, or is that real?
Oh, I've gotten one of those letters before where it's like, hey, this was short, whatever, if you want to come pick it up at the post office.
Oh, shoot. So it doesn't sound like 2 stamps.
Failed you.
Oh, well, it was a good try. Well, the problem is they sent 8 out that way. I wonder if they're all going to get caught up in that. Hopefully, wow, $2.56. $2. Wow. Okay, so that's not the end of the world, but okay. Well, gonna have to figure out a different way to do this.
At least for the future, for the next few.
Yeah. He said, might just be my PO. So if you are one of those, I feel bad. Like, they're Patreon subscribers. I wasn't trying to cheap out. I was just trying to find the most economical way to send these. Like,
right.
When the guy says, hey, you can send them for $7 or you can send them for $1.10. You're like, okay,
$1.10.
Send them for $1.10.
Yeah.
So I have to get that. Figured out. If you did get that notification on those, I'd love to hear from you just to figure out, like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to spend $3 or $4 to get them. You would think, like, okay, oh, it's crazy. These weigh an ounce, Mike, an ounce, 0.9. And then with a letter, it's maybe a full ounce. We're talking an ounce for $5, of postage. I don't know. The other thing I might need to do is just thin them down a little bit with the bubble wrap on the inside. That may have been a little bit too thick. Joe, thanks for doing that. Apologize for it as well, and appreciate you guys understanding on that. I wasn't trying to cheap out. It just was one of those situations. And Joe, you definitely did not cheap out on the cigar. Super great. I really enjoyed it. Good, robust. I'm kind of a flavor guy, so I like smoking kind of the flavored cigars. This definitely was just a full body, hour-long, and just smoke it and enjoy it. So That was super great.
Yeah.
So Joe, thanks for sending those to us as well, and we appreciate that. That's we got 2 in a row. Ed will be working on yours. I don't know. The next time we get together, Mike's out of town. We're going to figure out in the next couple of weeks how to get together and get that done. And so, guys, we appreciate you doing that as well. Mike, we're in a weird spot with technology. I got to talk to you about this because before the show, we were kind of like struggling with things to talk about, and that hasn't necessarily been a trend, or no, it has kind of been a trend for the two of us over the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And it's not like it's not like things are not changing in technology. There's plenty of changes going on,
Right.
but it's just not. I kind of lost that love and feeling with technology over the last 6 months. Like, and don't get me wrong, I love technology, I love the changes, but there's just hasn't been a lot of compelling tech especially in the gadget space. Do you get that feeling?
Well, that's what I've noticed about all of the tech stuff that I have been doing has been kind of deeper, in-depth projects, but projects on stuff that's not really, groundbreaking new tech, new gadgets. It's really reworking what I already have. My wireless network or my router or things like that. That's become what I've really enjoyed getting into, and I think that all spawned from just like what you said. The news on the tech side has not been as exciting. I think I mentioned to you that we're kind of in a weird spot where on computers and mobile devices, people are kind of they're good with what they have. In the past, we've either had, new computer hardware where people have been upgrading on a regular basis, or phones there for a while. People were getting a new phone every year or 2 years. And now I think most people, their phones are good enough for them. They've had them for maybe, 1, 2, or 3 years. And there hasn't been really anything compelling to get them to switch. And I think that's when I kind of started to lose my interest in the everyday tech news cycle, right? And it's been more of kind of the deeper projects and things like that. But I don't think we're alone, Jim. If you look at a lot of the other big tech YouTubers and things like that, I think they're feeling the same struggle. You can see them start to get into more project-based videos on things they're working on instead of covering the latest and greatest tech. I'd agree.
Yeah, I've been listening. Windows Weekly is one of the shows I listen to a lot of on the Twit network. And today, which would have been Wednesday's Thursday. I guess today's Thursday. So pretty recently, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple all have some kind of anti-competitive lawsuit pending with them right now. And I'm kind of starting to wonder, Mike, if we're just in that cycle where we flushed everybody out except the dominant players. And it's a bunch of big companies who have lots of money, who can do whatever they want. And there's no fight left. There's no kind of, and then all of a sudden Microsoft has just been a friend to everybody. Like, oh yeah, we can be your friends.
Yeah.
And, they used to fight everybody, right? And it was kind of interesting. And Google kind of conceded this week their tablet kind of space and said, all right, iPad, sorry, we're done. And they canceled 2 of their tablets to say, yeah, it's just, we're just not going to go in that area. The Apple Watch has come out, and there's been a few contenders with it, but nothing the Apple Watch is dominated for sure. I see everybody with an Apple Watch, right?
Yep.
And even that's not even a battle anymore. You just it's a watch, it kind of tells time. It'll play some music. It'll do some cool things. It'll do the heart rate. I work out with it. None of that stuff is interesting anymore. Like, not from a cutting edge perspective. I mean, it's terribly interesting from the fact that it does it, but it's not compelling like it has been in the past, where it seemed like we were getting these new technologies all the time. I just kind of think the big players have gotten big and we've gotten a little stale. I don't know. Respond to that. Do you think that could be? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's hungry.
Well, what's funny about that is I think the news, the stuff that you and I can report on, the big headlines, the stuff that all your major tech publications are picking up on, that has slowed down, because you're right. Things like the watch have come out, VR has come out, all these big kind of iterations of things, new tablets, all the new, I'll say kind of silos of tech that have been released and have been really exciting for people to talk about. But actually, I think it's almost bigger news and better news that now the silos are there and they're really refining the software behind them. They're tuning in, right? Because like that first iteration of the watch was good, not great. The first iteration of VR. Jim, have you? And the reason I say this is because VR was such a big buzzword. It still is a little bit, but it was really big a while back. And I tried one a long time ago and it was awful. I went over to my buddy's house, and he's got the PlayStation 4 with whatever, I can't remember the name of their VR setup they have. And I played a racing game, and it blew my mind. I mean, just totally blew me out of the water. I was expecting to have the same experience I had had before, just because, you know, when people aren't reporting on the little iterations that they're making to this stuff that are making them really rock solid. So I think our tech is still getting a lot better, and we're enjoying it more, and there's a lot more features that are coming out. And I think there's been little things along the way. They're just not the big headline stories that we're used to with tech. I think the tech industry might have to start shifting into really covering some of these more nuanced little updates that really do have a major impact. It makes tech that was the idea of it, and when it was announced, was really exciting and everyone's excited about it. Now it's really useful and powerful. And I think the VR example was perfect because I could not believe that this was running on a PlayStation, and it was a headset and two little controllers. And I mean, to the point where in the racing game, you see the racer's feet ahead of you because you sit in a chair. You sit in just any chair. I was just sitting on the couch, and you see the racer's feet, and my legs started. I couldn't tell which ones were my real legs because I saw those legs, and it felt like it was a really odd experience. And as you looked around the car, left to right, you can look around your shoulder. It was just like driving a car. No matter how I turned my head, it was like I was in a real car. It was giving me that view and that perspective. I mean, totally blew me away. I had no idea that VR had come that much, especially in the consumer space being on a PlayStation. So yeah, I think the news is just, you know, we're not having the big stories that we had before. We're not having these big new launches of items. I mean, we're having some, but not to the level that we've had in the past. But I think we're missing out on some of the smaller stories.
I also wonder if we're missing a little bit on the brand. So Google's brand has slipped a little bit. Like,
I think all their brands have slipped. I think you've noticed something. Yeah.
We talked about in the beginning of the show, Facebook, right? I mentioned Microsoft's kind of been has become a friend to everybody. Apple is kind of not interesting at this point. Like, yeah, they had the announcement, WWDC. We talked a little bit about that $8,000 or $20,000 PC they put out there. They announced some new things. Okay, so we got iPad OS, and you know, you're kind of like, okay, whatever. It seems like it's the same song, second verse. We're making incremental updates, and these companies are just such gajillionaires. Like, you know, you're kind of disconnected with them in some ways. You're like, yeah, you're not. You know, you're a company, and Apple is particularly bad about this. Apple's got all this money, and yet really does nothing to make the planet better. Like, you know, you're like, well, guys, you could do so much more. I mean, I know that's not their responsibility, and I know that's not their right, but they don't, you know, they're not. I mean, look, and this is Bill Gates was not the nicest guy in the world, and he was not during his heyday. He was not a great guy, and had moved on, kind of had a renaissance, and now has been trying to do everything he can to spend or give away as much of the money as he had. I don't today at Apple, or Google or Facebook, I don't see anybody in those organizations. Maybe it's too early, right? But I don't see anybody kind of in a legacy mode, right? Where it is, you know, they now control so much of currency, you know, and, you know, we're going to talk about this when we talk about cryptocurrency with Facebook, but, you know, you start kind of thinking like, guys, you could do some, you know, maybe you could do a little more for the planet. Now, again, that's not profit. That's not a part. They don't have to do that. But that's just kind of I don't know, you know?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like I always have a hard time thinking about what a company should and shouldn't be responsible for. I get it that they have a lot of money and that they need to be doing certain things, but I always tread lightly going into the world of they have a lot of money, they should be doing X, Y, Z. It's just that it gets sticky with kind of protecting, you know, what you would like them to do versus what, you know, it's a corporation and things like that.
No, right on.
Yep.
And they have to uphold the financial responsibilities to the shareholders and all of those things. And when we look at the history of charitable giving, or, you know, like the Carnegies or the Westinghouses or those families that, and there's been a gajillion of them through time, especially here in the United States. A lot of times those foundational grants did not come until much later when these bajillionaires felt guilty, about having all that money and thought, well, maybe I could do something better for the world. I can't say I do the same thing, because I don't have that kind of money. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy down here to shout up the hill and say you should do something. But I don't know. It would be a lot more compelling to me if some of these organizations, again, like what Bill, Melinda, and Warren Buffett have done, to in their lifetimes figure out ways to make the planet a better place and a safer place and just redistribute some of that wealth. That puts a little faith back in me. And when I look at those organizations, like an Amazon, and all they're worried about is what the divorce settlement is going to be, and how that's going to create a instant billionaire, another one, you kind of go, I don't really feel sorry for you. And so Mark says, didn't Bezos' ex-wife join the group giving away 50% of her estate? Very possible. But Jeff, I don't know if Jeff did. And so, it's one of those. Yeah. So, okay. So to come back full circle though, to that conversation, Mike, it just is hard to get excited for me anyways, just me personally. It's been hard for me to get excited about some of this tech that's coming out when we have companies behaving poorly and being kind of predatory in their marketing practices and the way they do things. And some of those things are happening, dominating, crushing, those kinds of things. And then, and I think that slows down the innovation cycle in some ways. And it's just, I don't know.
It does. And then I think you said this earlier. Whoever saw like Microsoft all of a sudden being like the really friendly, like, hey, remember us? Like, we're super nice. But we're still here and we're a great company. And it's almost like they let everyone else kind of have these little mini explosion moments. Yeah. And then Microsoft really hasn't had one in a while. And so it's like, hey, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, Microsoft, you're good guys, right? And at least that's their current status with people, I think.
They flirt with being the most, from a market cap standpoint.
Oh, they do, yeah.
They keep flirting with that number. The stock will go up and it'll push them past everybody else for a while. Then it'll come back and $136 a share or something like that for Microsoft now. 10 years ago, it hovered in the 30s. For 20 years, it hovered in the 30s. And so, yeah, nobody ever would have seen that. So even they are not coming, even they don't have any compelling products right now that I'm just like, you kind of look at what they're doing, what Microsoft is doing, and you're kind of like, okay, the Surface Pro 99 is coming out. Okay, great. We have another Surface Pro. That's awesome. I mean, they have a few other products, but it's been hard for me to get behind any of them.
But I think Nadella has positioned them so well for the future, especially compared to a company like Apple. It's shocking to me that Apple can have the valuation that they do with essentially just being a hardware company, right? And that can't last, and it especially can't last when they have just been dropping the ball on everything. And it's really the reason, we always joke that I was supposed to be the Apple guy that came on the show. But, really ever since Steve Jobs' passing, they have just lost their luster with these products, and they are not the same Apple that they were before. And you can see now they're trying to jump into this whole services stuff, and it's so uncompelling. Like, it's so not interesting. It doesn't, for me, I've looked at it. They're a little too late, and also the services don't even look that great. I think we're going to start to see that flip a little bit, and Microsoft regain that lead on Apple, because Apple, although you make a phone that everyone buys, I just don't think you can make a future strictly off hardware when you're not currently putting out the best hardware out there. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't locked into the ecosystem of Apple, they don't make the best hardware. It's not. So I'd be switching over to a different phone, but I'm kind of in the ecosystem. My whole family's in there, so there's reasons I'm staying. But I think that's going to flip. I think Nadella has done a great job with Microsoft and really seeing, maybe short-term sacrifice for that long-term gain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a weird place, and I thought it was worth mentioning, especially as we've struggled a little bit in the gadget space to kind of find gadgets to talk about. That's what we do here. And up until recently, it's been easy to do and actually easy to find guests that are interesting. And, in that space and doing things. And today, finding, we've had a sprinkling habitat, and we get Erin on here, and she's doing a great job. Although Erin's reviewing a lot of the same gadgets, phones, and she's gotten interesting with dental things, and she's got this vehicle that she's been outfitting, which is going to be super cool when we have her back and she gives us the walkthrough of that.
That's what I'm excited for. I've been waiting to see that vehicle.
Yeah. Well, but what it's kind of done for us too, in some regards, is we've had to get alternative, so, we're talking about grilling, and grilling gadgets. That has been something that, we've kind of added in as some things, some cooking stuff, as we kind of think about some stuff that have gone in our vehicles. It's kind of forced us to go outside of the traditional phones, tablets, PCs, those kinds of things, cloud services. There was a day when, Mike, we used to, I can't imagine doing that today, but we used to talk about and compare all these cloud storage options that were out there, Spider Oak, and OneCloud, and, the Google Drives and all these other things. And now, like, I don't know if I could honestly have a conversation about cloud storage at this point,
Yeah, I could. I think I could have that conversation, but I think a lot of it's, like I said, too little too late. People have their services that they're using, unless, for example, when Dropbox announced that they were getting rid, or they're implementing a device limit, we kind of had a little conversation there on replacements. So when you have one of the big players make a big change, I think that's a good time to have those conversations. But agreed, they're all a dime a dozen nowadays. Just go pick one and go with it, right? Yeah. If you're going to use cloud storage, for the most part, a lot of them are going to be pretty much the same, unless you want to hear Mike ramble about my awesome Nextcloud and doing a self-hosting on Unraid. I'm always willing to have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, and it has been interesting that we've brought Unraid back around. That has been a topic that we kind of talked a lot about, and then kind of got uninteresting for a while. You've brought it back. I don't know if it's sparked an Unraid craze in our community. And now all of a sudden, everybody's doing Unraid.
It sparked a fast forward 30-second button revolution in our community.
Well, I think there are some who still use it, who enjoyed us coming back to it. I'm going to say that I got a note. I got notes from people. I was being interviewed by another podcast on Tuesday night, which will go live here in the next couple weeks. And he was talking about cord cutting, and he said, "What do you think's the future of cord cutting?" And I think what I said is, we're just going to have online companies like YouTube replace the cable companies for the bill. So what you paid $125 or $150 for cable, whatever that is. I haven't paid cable in so long, I don't even know. But let's just say you're paying them $100, right, for your cable. Well, now you're going to pay YouTube $100 and get all the channels. I think we've essentially just traded one for the other. Now, it was a long way to get there, right? We all started cutting the cord 5, 6, 7 years ago. The piecemeal services have come in chunks. Now they're starting to consolidate. There's going to be a few winners. Those winners will dominate the market, and then they're going to jack their prices up, and you're going to be paying just as much as you were paying for cable to get that same kind of access. And you'd say, well, yeah, Jim, but I can get that stuff anywhere. No, you can't, because what we're seeing is companies like Disney come in, buy the stuff up, make it available for a time, and then pull it off the market. Yeah. And nobody has access to that. That's no different than when you had to watch a television show at 8:00 on a Thursday night to see Friends, right? I mean, so like we're almost coming around full circle to that. Where, how are we going to cut the cable when there's no cable to cut?
Well, and exactly. And, I definitely think that the cable companies, all they have to do is they're on the verge of if they make an app as good as YouTube TV and give me the same price, sure, I'm already paying you for my internet, so why not just tack you on? The problem is they got run over with technology, because who wants a cable box and coax and an app that only runs in your house and DVR that's limited to a box in your house? Who wants that when you can have YouTube TV where it's just seamless and it just works and it's everywhere and it doesn't matter where I'm at? So if they come out and if they update a lot of their services, they could get back in the game. I think Cox and Xfinity and all of those could get back in the game easily if they get their prices down to where YouTube TV is, and then they increase their tech.
Mark Robson says in the chat room, same with cameras. The Megapixel Race isn't getting many benefits to the consumers. TVs, like 8K. So what? Like that is so uncompelling, 1080p was incredible, when we moved to HD and we made those step ups, 480 and 720 and then 1080 and then 4K and then an 8K. like 16K or what are we doing next? Like can I even see, anyways, they're uninteresting. Like they're not advancements in the technology. It's almost sarcastic. Some of the advancements we've had in some of those spaces. So, I've got a 128 megapixel camera. You're like, okay, I'm not sure I'd ever actually use all those megapixels. And maybe a few folks. Well, think of that PC that Apple released that we talked about a couple weeks ago. That's $30,000 or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is for 5 people on the planet. Really? Have we gotten that uninteresting in our technology that we have to release? We got to release these $30,000 computers. And here's another point to that, Mike. Try buying mesh Wi-Fi at this point. It's a $300 bill to get in the door.
Oh yeah.
Right? Any home automation, like, now the price of the light bulbs and stuff have come down, but some of the home automation, you think about some of these Amazon devices we're putting in, it's $150 here. It's $199 there. It's $300 there. The gadgets have kind of gotten, and it's almost like they don't care. They're like, no, okay, then don't pay it. We don't care. Somebody else will. And you're kind of like, $300 for a thing that sits on my desk and has, and
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's been, I sound kind of like a bitter old man. Is what I sound like right now. Holy cow. Off my lawn.
But there's just some truth to it. You're right. Things have, it's definitely changed.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what is interesting though, I think, and Joe mentions this with Elon Musk, and I'm thinking even too with space has gotten interesting. And I think there's some really cool things. Now we can't participate in those things. Those aren't gadget things when we talk about communication satellites and some of those kinds of things. Just going to Mars. We can't really participate in that. We get to watch it. There's some interesting things there. So I don't know, maybe that will spark some things, Mike, that will make it interesting. And I'm not saying it's not interesting, guys, at all. And I'm probably making a bigger deal about it than I should. But it is, I'm feeling that way. I'm kind of like, maybe I'll go buy another hard drive. Like that's lately, that's been like, okay, I was telling you in pre-show, I'm like, okay, maybe I should just go buy some gadgets for the show. Like if I'm struggling with it, let me just jump start it with some gadgets. So, I start thinking, okay, what would I buy? Yeah, I'm not really interested in anything.
Yep, all tapped out. There's that list.
I could get one of those. No, not interested in that. I have 96 terabytes here. No, that's not interesting either. I could get some more GPUs. No, I got 4 of those sitting around. I could upgrade to SSDs. Nope, everything I have has an SSD in it. I got to put more. Nope, I got as much RAM as I need in there. And I've even got a couple phones. We've had some phones that we've traded in, and I've kept, or not traded in, but I've bought new phones and kept the old ones. So I was thinking, maybe I'll get a new Android. No, the Android device I have works just great. Like, I don't know if so
that's what I mean. We're to the stage where everything has, it works.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny you mentioned the routers. That's actually the one space, if I could suggest to people something they should get, most people have not upgraded their Wi-Fi in forever. And I used to gawk at and kind of or not gawk. I used to kind of not like the fact that the cable companies kept, they had the $10 rental and they were forcing people to upgrade. That is the only saving grace for people having decent, okay, acceptable Wi-Fi in their home, is that their cable company every so often gives them a new box to put in their house. That's the only reason 99% of the population has acceptable Wi-Fi. If they didn't do that, and people were required to go out to the store and buy something, new every once in a while, when this new technology comes on board, the amount of comments I get at work, because everyone, you're just known as the tech guy, right? And everyone has been, okay, oh man, my internet at home is so slow. I'm like, well, what do you pay for? Like, I pay for like $300 down. I'm like, what do you get? And like 40. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what do you got for your router? And they tell me, and it's some ancient, we're talking maybe like, N Wi-Fi, if that. So it's, so yeah, there's a few areas there where some people could use to upgrade, but I agree with you. It's been kind of an interesting cycle we've been in, especially for hardware, gadgets, things like that. We've gone through, I think we really sped through some of those in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? For 2 years prior, we had the SSD thing, right? Where I get everything onto SSD. We had GPUs, we had phones and Android and Apple, and they're all competing, and it was great. And we did still, in the time that I've been on this podcast, we have talked about cloud services, and there was enough innovation there to talk about it. There just hasn't been lately.
Well, think of the GPU space, right? So crypto miners come along, raise the prices. It's crazy for a while. We enjoyed that crypto run, and we're still kind of enjoying it now. But then NVIDIA comes along and is like, oh, okay, here's $1,000 GPU. And you're like, are you freaking kidding me? $1,000 for a GPU. And it just felt sarcastic. Like it felt like they betrayed us. It felt like, I mean, even as good as it was, you're like, okay, now you're just trying to kill us, And it gets, in a market where the companies, they sense these things and they kind of go for blood. And then, of course, they've backed off on that some and brought some of the prices back down. But it's that kind of predatory pricing. And I know they can. I know that's what they're supposed to do, their businesses, right? I sound super anti-business tonight.
I was going to say, I was like, well, I mean, but you get to a point where, if people weren't buying them, they'll lower the price.
No,
they need to move product. So,
right
people have still been buying it at that price. And I think really if you want to say they're taking advantage of it, the culture nowadays is that, the best and always having that, especially in tech. When you look at gaming, you have, especially with your Twitch streamers, and then the viewers want to be just like them. So they'll go out and they think they need $1,000 card. So there is a market for it for whatever reason, from how society works nowadays with getting that sort of stuff. But, if I can sell it for that much, great. And if people start to not buy it and they say, oh, no, I'm good. I think we've seen that. You see that same thing with phones. We're $1,000+ for a phone where that was not even thought
I remember when we thought $300 was expensive.
Of course,
you go and you'd be like, oh, can you subsidize this? Man, $300 is a lot. And then now we're like, oh, it's $1,000. I'll take two. I do think it makes me think, as I look at the drones behind you, like I'm not into drones. That's an area that has, although that market too stabilized a little bit. I don't know if there's that
amazing too.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, I mean, DJI owns it right there. DJI is the premier player in that space. But the improvements to drones, we haven't covered that much. I think just because that's an expensive thing to experience and to review. But the improvements there are absolutely insane.
Yeah, I haven't done that. And I haven't gone into gaming streaming. So that's another area we haven't touched. There's been a lot in that area. In fact, if I had done gaming streaming, I'd have all the equipment I needed I wouldn't have cared about this Hangout thing going away because I would have had everything ready to go, right? To get it done. So there may be some interesting things that are happening that I have, just because I'm not interested in them, I have kind of let pass by. We did spend a lot of time doing crypto, right? And that was super fun. It's still really interesting right now. In fact, Facebook announced this week that they're going to do this Libra. I think they're pronouncing it, and it's going to kind of be a weird blockchain kind of currency, a stable currency. They're going to try and replace, it will be their currency to kind of help people process payments of things around the world. Listen, I'm a big crypto guy, and I started reading through some of this stuff, and I'm like, what? Like, you're gonna like, of the thousands of cryptocurrencies that are already out there, why wouldn't
you're gonna start another one?
You're gonna do, yeah, exactly. You're gonna do another one, and why? Isn't there? So, of course, it was super funny. So, but some of my friends at work who've been making fun of me on the crypto side lately, They were the first to come to me. Hey, did you hear Facebook's doing, like, all of a sudden it was legit now, right? It's legit.
Well, yeah.
with
Well,
Facebook.
I was gonna say the first thing I did when I heard that, did you go and open your wallet to see if prices had adjusted?
Heck
I
yeah.
was expecting a run up because of just, people, the lay person who hasn't been interested, or maybe the lay people who, just like you, were kind of down on crypto. Maybe it, re-energized them and got them interested again, and they went and got back into it. So there wasn't, I at least I didn't notice a huge or really any uptick, maybe a slight uptick after that announcement, but nothing substantial.
Well, Mike, I know we've been saving this for post-show crypto, and I love this Facebook excuse to be able to talk about it during the regular show. But what's been super interesting, I'm looking at my portfolio now, and Bitcoin is at 9,700 all of a sudden, and it's not like the major spike that where we would see these during that the fall of 2017. We would literally see $1,000 increases in Bitcoin a day.
An hour sometimes. I mean, yeah.
And you'd be like, what's going on? It wasn't that long ago, we were talking about $3,000 of Bitcoin. And that's 3 times. It's now Bitcoin quietly has moved up almost 3 times. In some cases, if you go all the way to the bottom, it's right at 3. But it's done it in a gradual kind of stock market like ways, which is really weird. It's drug Ethereum and some of the other coins along with it. But as I kind of look at the portfolio, I'm like, hey, like, this is interesting again. This is kind of cool. So is Facebook jumping on in this market now with Libra? And, they've got, I think, Uber and PayPal and MasterCard behind this as well.
Yeah.
So, which is what the crypto market needs, just to be honest. It needs some legitimate players taking part in this thing to make it happen. It needs some of that to make it happen. But, man, things are pretty nice out there. Like, if you missed a good run, if you'd gotten out, if you quit and got out, you missed a pretty sweet little run.
Yeah, and it's still slowly, just incrementally going up.
Yeah. Now, as soon as you buy, I'm talking to you in your car, you're driving to work, and you're like, oh, I'm finally going to buy. As soon as you buy, it will just plummet. So
that's how it works.
That's
especially we've learned this. People don't buy don't buy tonight, buy tomorrow morning, because Friday mornings.
Yes. Yeah. Don't
after
buy
our show, after we talk about it, is when
Saturday might even be better. CNBC had an article that said Bitcoin is the digital gold, but Facebook's Libra is going to be the digital dollar. And so it's interesting, the comparison between those two, where, Bitcoin has always kind of been seen. I know they've been wanting to see it as transactional, and it's been tried as transactional, but it's so volatile. The fact that we're saying in the last month it's gone, or 2 months, it's gone from 3,000 to 9,000. That's way too volatile for a currency. As good as it is for us, right? That's acting more like gold.
Have we gotten to a point, though, where we're trusting major media to even comment on cryptocurrency yet?
Are you saying CNBC is not trustworthy, Mike? Is that what
I'm saying they're trustworthy. I'm saying, do we trust it? But I don't know. Like, I have never, when you read a major news outlet's article on crypto, it's like, I don't know who they had to write it. Like, hey, you're kind of into tech, right? Yeah. Okay, can you write this on blockchain? Because none of us know what it is. Yeah. So I don't, making a claim that Facebook Libra is the new digital dollar, that's bold.
Well, I do think
fair,
of this.
That's the headline, and I haven't even read the article.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Judging off that.
It's actually interesting, whether it is or it's not. That's their intent. Is we do need for. I think we'll have Edward back on here in a couple weeks, maybe, to try and straighten some of these things out. But we do need it. If it's gonna be some kind of currency, it can't be flying all over the place. Like, a pizza can't cost $15 today and $45 on Monday. Right. You can't have that. Like, that doesn't work. That's Venezuela, right? And so you got to have some stability. The weird thing is there are a bunch of stable coins out there right now. Like, there's already some blockchains that are tied to things, or that where they're trying to keep that stable. A Stellar would be an example of one of those, right? Where, it's trying to Stellar, if I can say that right, Stellar Lumens.
And Coinbase really hot behind that one.
Yeah. And so there are some out there. But they need that to be the currency. So as Facebook progresses with this, and this is going to be front and center, it's maybe not gadgetry, but I thought it was interesting because we talked about crypto and it's in the tech space. Be interesting to see if this goes anywhere. I honestly think, Mike, a year from now, this will be a dead issue. I don't think it's good they're talking about it. We're going to need more of these kinds of things to happen.
Yep.
I think this is kind of a non-starter.
I was just going to say, I don't know what's going to happen with this one, but what I do like is what you just mentioned is the conversation is hopefully flipping from investment, making money, to using blockchain cryptocurrencies as an actual medium to easily transact and exchange value across borders and with very little friction. I think people are starting to, because with this, that's the whole idea, right? Is frictionless transactions, moving that value across. Yeah. So hopefully the script starts to flip a little bit, and we've been talking about that for a long time. It needs to get to that point where it's stable, it's not volatile, and it really just becomes the best medium to transact value. Mm-hmm. And so maybe news articles like this, maybe announcements like this will start to get kind of the mainstream talking about it in that way.
Yeah. Well, and what we've seen exchanges kind of come and go. The shysters have gotten kind of wiped out or have left right now. Some of them will start coming back as the money is coming back. But, during that downturn, kind of the weak and the dishonest, I'm not saying there's not dishonest people out there, but many of them, there was no money in it. So they went away, right? And we saw a couple companies. We've mentioned them a bunch of times, but Coinbase has been one that I've kind of liked. There are a couple different ways to do this, who've kind of come on and expanded their services and made this a little more stable. And, where you were thinking, I think some people told us a couple of years ago, this will never last, or this is kind of dumb. I've even said that, like, this is kind of dumb. Like, I've said that a bunch. You start kind of thinking, this thing may do something. Who knows what? And I'm not saying we're all going to be rich because of it. I'm actually kind of hoping, I'm kind of hoping some of us get rich over it. Wouldn't that be great? Right? You're going to have to pay half of it in taxes here in the United States, but it's getting a little more stable and a little more interesting. The fact that a Facebook and a MasterCard and an Uber and a PayPal would get together and say, there could be some benefits to this thing if we could get people using a more universal system. We deal with this at Gallup where I work, is we have money all over the world that you try and get back into the United States for whatever reason. It's super expensive, and the tax implications of it and some of those kinds of things. Yep. Could it change if we had a more stable global currency? And I'm not saying a one world currency. I'm just saying a common currency that could be transacted globally. I don't know. Sounds kind of interesting to me. So I think I think this is worth following. Like I said, I think a year from now, this will pretty much be a moot point, but I think it's kind of interesting as well. Jeff was asking what happened to the Apple Card that was announced too. Is that
coming out still this summer? Yeah, okay. I think we'll probably see it sometime in July. Now that we have WWDC out of the way, I think we'll start to see that kind of ramp up. I'm on the news alert for it. I said, alert me when it's available. So when we know about it, you guys you hear about it. So because I signed up, I'm gonna get it right away. So I'll be the Home Gadget Geeks tester of the Apple Card. So who knows if I'll actually use it as my everyday card, but I'd love to, test that out. That's the kind of tech that I'm really interested in. To go back to our old conversation, this is cool new tech to me, is that a credit card deeply tied into my phone with Apple Pay, with the app that it gives you. And so I'm really interested to see exactly how seamless and how useful it is and how beneficial it is to, my financial health.
Yeah, for sure. You had mentioned some router stuff, Wi-Fi stuff. Did you get your point across in that, or are you still looking, or what are you doing with that?
No, I was just I put a note in here for Jim because you guys always make fun of me. I'm so ADD on my stuff and I switch at a drop of a hat. So if you are following along in the Mike router saga over the past year, I don't know how many I have used. I am back to Untangle now. So I switched back. I left the Ubiquiti USG. It is a Unify product. I had been using that for about the last month or two. Went back to Untangle now. I tried putting on, just so you guys know, because Untangle does have bridge mode, you can put it between your router and your main switch, and you can still get because I really wanted the filtering, the content blocking, the the statistics, right? All of that, the intrusion protection system. Because the one thing about the Unify USG is that it's so underpowered, you can't really do intrusion prevention without drastically reducing. I think it takes that device down to only like 85 megabits per second throughput. So it would have been crippling my internet speed. So I wanted that bridge mode though. They have a workaround, but they tell you not to do it. And I found out why they tell you not to do it for VLANs. If you run VLANs, so if your router has VLANs that you are setting up across your network, and then you're putting the untangle device in between there in bridge mode, it was just flaky. It didn't work well. So I was like, I kind of want this more than I need the dashboard of a USG. So I swapped it out. So I'll let you know next week what I'm using next week. But this week I am using Untangle as my router. And when I went back to it, it was kind of like coming home, Jim.
Yeah.
I think Untangle has been my favorite of them all. And I keep going out and trying different things. I went back to PF Sense for a bit after Untangle. And every time I come back to Untangle, I'm like, no. Like, I just really like it for some reason. I don't know why I keep giving it up and trying other things, mainly just because I have technology ADD and I need to just switch things out every once in a while because I get bored. But Untangle feels like home to me. I kind of like it.
So last night we recorded Cyber Frontiers 56, I think, and Christian's on, and I was telling a story. You got me thinking with the router conversation. I was telling a story. Saturday, we had a garbage truck lose its brakes and run into a telephone pole here in the neighborhood, which is super random. Like, does that really still happen these days? I kind of told Sarah, like, I wonder if there's something more going on. Like, do you ever hear of anybody in a garbage truck losing control and hitting a power pole anymore? Like, really, in our neighborhood, really? Like, is there something more to this? Like, whatever. Anyways,
Jim's getting his tinfoil hat on,
Just saying, it's just the weirdest thing. Like, you never hear that anymore.
Yeah,
So
you're
took
right.
out the pole, power went down 5 a.m. She heard a racket. She woke me up. Didn't really need to, but she woke me up. Hey, the power's out. I'm like, it's 5 a.m. I could still be sleeping.
I don't
Like,
need the power to sleep.
Exactly. My phone's got a battery on it. The alarm's gonna go off. I'm gonna be just fine. I didn't say any of those things. I was like, oh, the power's out. So she's like, hey, the UPSs are beeping downstairs. So I come down here and shut everything down. PCs were still running, by the way, so I could gracefully kind of close things down. Then I went back to bed, and so I got up at 8:30, and she'd gone out to run an appointment about 8 maybe. I guess I didn't get up. Maybe I got up at 7. By about 7:38, the power comes back on. I'm like, sweet. So I come down, turn all the computers on, no internet, and that same pole had the Cox wire on it that ran internet, and so had to call the Cox guy out, and they had to string new wire, and they were there for a while. I went in, I had to do Ask the Podcast Coach. So I went to work and just did it there. But it got me thinking, Mike. I was like, I don't really have a good redundant backup if there's a major internet outage. I didn't really, I usually just jump on my phone and I'm okay. But what if I needed, I got some things, I got some crypto running that went down for 6 or 7 hours because, I didn't have an internet connection. That could have been, if I could have got my phone in between the modem and my router, my wireless router. So Christian was like, just build a unraid box and, then put a Wi-Fi card in there, and then you can turn your phone on and use the Wi-Fi source to the phone. You're not going to get great throughput, but it'll be good enough. Could I use Untangle for that? Could I do the same thing with Untangle, Mike?
Yeah. And actually, you can. So, and if you really want to get geeky with it, Jim, you could. So Untangle actually has built-in WAN failover. So if your main, you tell which one's your main, and it'll cut over to another one if it were to fail. Well, what you could do is you could put just an old PC or something that has both Wi-Fi and Ethernet, and you could connect the Wi-Fi to your phone and tell it to share the internet through your Ethernet and have that routed into Untangle, and your whole network would be back up. Now, obviously limited to the speed of your phone, but that's been my plan because I do have the Verizon full unlimited plan.
Yeah.
The tethering, I think I can get at least, I don't know, before they cut me down, it's like 25 gig or something a month. So that is my backup plan. Although I haven't tested it because I'm always like, oh, I'll take my laptop over there, Wi-Fi, share Ethernet, and I'll pull the WAN cord, plug the new cord in, and I'll be good. So I've been thinking about testing that, and I might, now that I'm back on Untangle, try it with the WAN failover and see how well it works.
Yeah. Joe says that last night we were talking about this, and Joe was listening, and he said, and I had mentioned the Bitdefender box. And he said right after that, or he said, oh, I had a Bitdefender box ad show up on my Facebook feed last night right after the show. Like, guys, they are so spying on us. Like, okay, with that being said, then it looks like maybe Paul Barron has a solution as well. I'll have to go over to Tinker Try and see what he has set up for that as well.
I would love to know if there is a like a you know, like the cards you get from Verizon and everything that connects to their network, but then has an Ethernet port on the out port, essentially meant for this type of thing. I bet you could for those sorts.
Yeah, because you just basically need a Wi-Fi receiver, and it's going to just be, it needs to be included on the network, and then it just says, hey, I'm getting this, and it's a bridge, right? It's a bridge between that and the wireless router.
Speaking of this, you guys really should go out and check out. The best person I found who did a video on it was Linus Tech Tips. They did a video on the guys who won the IBM challenge. I'm totally blanking on the name of the IBM challenge. Jim, maybe you know. It's the challenge that IBM hosts, and people come in and they develop something, or they come in with an idea. They submit an idea for something that can improve the world using technology. And this year's was really cool. It was essentially a system, they call them ducks, and they are these balls that float, and they all are Wi-Fi hotspots, essentially, that you deploy in situations of a flood. So especially in Houston, you dump and all these ducks across, and as they float around, they create a mesh network, not to give internet, but it creates, if you were to connect to your phone, it gives you one of those splash screens. You know, like at the hotel, it gives you like the login page. Well, the actual login page is a emergency submission form where I'm here, I need X, Y, and Z services. It loads your GPS coordinates, and it's essentially this network, because during a flood, a lot of times your cell network's down, everything's down. So they dump these ducks, and they create this huge mesh network across a city. And you essentially have emergency response services available, and you have a system to track people's request for help. And I thought that was extremely cool, really fun way to, and these balls, they went into the technology. I think it's essentially like an Arduino board with a Wi-Fi stick, and that's it. Battery. And I mean, and a battery. It's really nothing too crazy, but it's the implementation that was really cool.
Yeah, put the battery on the bottom to get buoyancy, or to get your keel right on these things, so they'll stay afloat nicely, and then your Arduino board on the top with a little Wi-Fi signal and some software to do the job. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool solution, and I had never heard of the IBM competition before. And again, someone should put it in the chat what the name of that competition is. But a very cool one. Like I said, Linus Tech Tips has a cool video where they went and they actually looked at them and tested them out, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Ken, thanks for the link. Ken had put the Tinker Try solution that Paul had come up with. I'll throw that in the show notes as well, so folks can get back to that if you too are looking for a way to back up your. Why didn't that paste? That was weird. If you have internet outage and you could use your phone for it, that's be something to look at as well. Mike, one more thing before we go. Plex sent me a note. Many of you guys, because way back to the very beginning when we were talking about cutting the cable, and many of you have gone to Plex for that. I got a letter, and maybe you did too, where they said they're making changes to how the guide data is curated and delivered in Plex beginning on June 30th. So just here at the end of the month, Plex will require Plex Media Server version 1.16.1 to maintain the EPG data. That's the data, the guide data overall. Like for TV and VCR functionality, users that don't upgrade by the above date will begin losing guide data starting July 1st. Since part of this process involves matching your current channel lineup to the new channel lineup, as well as matching any recordings that may have already been scheduled, we strongly encourage all users to refresh the program data after updating Plex Media Server, and then review their channel lineup and scheduled recordings. If something is amiss, we recommend deleting it and setting up the DVR from scratch. That's not great, but okay. If you encounter problems, of course, visit our forums. So Plex users, a good one to know, by the way, Windows Media Center still getting guide data, and we have about 6 months. I'm just saying, Windows 7 Media Center, Windows 7 still getting guide data. 6 months before Windows 7 is completely out of support. I don't think I care, to be honest, but we'll see how that goes as well. Mike, anything else before we go?
Well, along that note too, a good reminder to every time you do that, anytime you have I need to go in and change something in DVR, because we don't think about it in Plex, we set it and forget it. Go and rescan for on your antenna. You never know. Sometimes the FCC just had some big announcement like remember to rescan every once in a while because the channels change, and especially recently they've been changing or they've been adding new channels. So it's always good every once a quarter, maybe twice a year, go in there and rescan and see if anything's changed, or see if your location maybe gets a new channel that you didn't get before. It's always kind of a fun little thing. I always like try and count. I'm like, oh yes, I had 21 before. How many channels do I get now? 21 again. Yeah. Okay, I'll try again.
Still 21.
Still 21.
Still 21. I dropped. I mentioned on the show I dropped my Plex pass. We weren't using it enough, but I think I'd paid through July, middle of July or something, so it's still working. And the other day I was like, I wonder if that still works. So I went to on my PC here. I went to the Plex server, which is on the NVIDIA Shield, dialed up some TV, and I watched some Gilligan's Island. I mean, who doesn't want to watch Gilligan's Island off Me TV? And it worked great. I mean, I was like, okay, well, that's going to be, if we have to go TV, that'll probably be if all of a sudden guide data stopped working or that PC stopped working, we would probably switch over to Plex full time. Although, man, YouTube TV is super compelling, Mike.
It is compelling. It's been I still have Plex running as my backup when I need to do other things, but YouTube TV is our solution. We really like it.
Yeah, super good. A couple reminders before we go. One, don't forget, we thank our Patreon subscribers. If you want to get in on the Coin Club and not only pay me money, but then pay me more money for postage. Jeez Louise. Dude, I feel like a douche. God Lord, how can I have done that? Well, anyways, I'm sorry. I apologize. Joe, I especially apologize. He sends us cigars and then I make him pay postage for these things. God, thank you, post office. I would have paid it. I wasn't trying to be cheap. It just, anyways. If I'll make sure I get the right postage on it when I send it to you as well. But for a $5 Patreon, just jumping that in there in a month, and we'll send you out one of these. And we appreciate you guys sponsoring the show. Hopefully, it'll allow me to buy more tech gadgets that be more interesting, and I won't complain like an old man to get off my lawn around technology. So we appreciate you guys sponsoring us that way through Patreon. Don't forget to join the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. You can send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Don't forget the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. You know that's Christian. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. He's got plenty of room, by the way. He told me last night when I was recording him, like, hey, they're ready for some new customers. So hosting as little as $10 a month and some pretty great stuff. WordPress optimized and podcasting friendly. MapleGrovePartners.com. And don't forget, you can also listen to us on our mobile app, HomeGadgetGeeks.com. Gets you there as well. We are live every Thursday, except program note, really important. Don't turn this off yet. I'm not talking about HelloFresh. Okay, don't turn this off. I'm not talking about HelloFresh. Next 2 weeks, we're off. So Mike, I'm off 1 week and Mike's out. It's 4th of July, which is where we try to blow our fingers and toes off our bodies here in the United States. 4th of July is on a Thursday this year. We're going to take 2 weeks vacation. Maybe when we come back, there'll be some more interesting things. Although we found an hour and 10 minutes worth of things to talk about, Mike.
Mainly to complain about the things that we didn't have to talk about. But, maybe we'll come back, rejuvenated, a lot of energy about hopefully some new stuff comes out in the next 2 weeks we can talk about.
We do. Little vacation. I'll actually use that time to schedule some guests. We got Mark and Mike coming back to talk about some grill tech and some barbecue stuff. Asked Mark to come back with, and he had to leave the chat room, but come back with some recipes. Like, let's talk about some actually food that we go, some of the food that he's doing. Because I think that's the interesting next step, Mike. It's great. We have pellet things, by the way, barbecues have gotten. I was out shopping for grills.
I was wondering if you did because we talked about this.
I know. I didn't pull the trigger.
You didn't pull the trigger. Okay.
Talk about a bubble. I never thought I'd spend $900 on a Traeger.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Ooh, I just said that. Now it's going to show up on my Facebook feed. Yeah, they are expensive. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but beyond that, what can we do once we have them? So those guys are going to come in and we're going to talk a little bit more around the food prep and some of those things as we kind of get into the dog days of summer. We'll be back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks or whatever. We're going to take the next 2 weeks off. So back in 3. If you're listening live, stay around a little bit, maybe a little bit of post show. We talk crypto in this one, so we probably won't do a crypto post show. We'll see you back in a couple weeks. With that, we'll say good night.